When you owe federal back taxes to the IRS, sometimes it might feel that there is no way out. But believe it or not, the IRS does have a bit of compassion. The IRS has a program where they will work with you to try to settle your federal tax debt for less than the amount you owe. It is called an offer in compromise, but the IRS used to call it the Fresh Start Program. Since most taxpayers know it as the Fresh Start Program, throughout this video, I will call it both the Fresh Start Program and an offer in compromise. Now, not all taxpayers who owe back taxes will qualify for the program because there are specific requirements, but we will go through the qualifications in this video. Hopefully, you will qualify for the Fresh Start Program so that you can get some financial relief. First, I want to start off by letting you know that the IRS has a warning out about offer in compromise mills. A lot of times, these mills will tell you that you qualify for an offer in compromise when you really don't. These mills will tell you that they can settle your tax for pennies on the dollar, and of course, they charge you a fee. Sometimes these companies can help you, but the IRS can help you for free with the process of getting forgiveness for all or part of your federal tax debt. Applying for the Fresh Start Program is something you can do yourself. You can definitely have someone help you with your offer in compromise application, but you won't get a better deal with the IRS by having someone do it for you. Before we dig into the details of the Fresh Start Program, please know that you cannot submit an offer in compromise if a court has made a final decision or judgment about the tax amount you owe. Also, the IRS will not process your offer if you have a pending claim, if you're being audited for a year for which you owe a tax liability, or if you filed a claim for innocent spouse relief. If you have one of these issues, you should wait for it to resolve before you submit an offer in compromise. And one more thing, the IRS wants you to look at all of your payment options before you submit an application for the Fresh Start Program. One option is to set up an installment agreement to pay your back taxes. So, the first thing that you want to do is use the IRS website to check to see if you qualify for the Fresh Start Program. I will include a link in the description box to the webpage. After you pre-qualify, you should go ahead and complete the application packet. I will also include a link to the application packet in the description box. You can apply for the Fresh Start Program for yourself or for your business if you A, are currently going through a bankruptcy proceeding, B, you have filed all of your tax returns. If you haven't filed your return for last year, then you have to have filed for an extension. C, if you're an employer, you made tax deposits for the current and past 2 quarters. And D, you have made all required estimated tax payments. Estimated tax payments have to be 100% of the total tax from the prior tax year or 90% of the tax that you expect to owe for the current year. You will divide your amount by 4 to get your quarterly payments. Before you file an offer in compromise, you have to file the quarterly estimated payments that are due. Even if you're qualified to apply for the Fresh Start Program, it doesn't guarantee that your offer in compromise will be accepted. The IRS might work with you if they believe that you cannot pay the full amount that you owe, or if paying your tax debt would create a financial hardship. You have the best chance of getting a fresh start if the IRS believes that they can't collect what you owe in a reasonable amount of time. At the end of the day, the IRS will determine the amount that they believe you can pay over time. Usually, the IRS will accept you into the Fresh Start Program based on one of 3 reasons. 1, do you doubt that you owe the federal tax liability? You should choose this option if you believe that the amount that you owe is not correct according to the law. 2, is there doubt that the amount is collectible? Your tax debt is not collectible if your assets and income are less than the tax debt that you owe. Or 3, effective tax administration. Effective tax administration is when the IRS knows that you legally owe the taxes and that they can collect the full amount owed, but if you were to pay the full amount, it will create a financial hardship for you. The IRS will look at your specific situation and will consider your income, your expenses, your assets, and your overall ability to pay. Normally, the IRS will not accept an offer in compromise if you can pay your tax debt in full by using an installment agreement or if you have enough equity in your assets that you can sell to pay your tax debt. Your offer in compromise has to be equal to or greater than the reasonable collection potential. When it comes to the reasonable collection potential, the IRS will take a look at the equity that you have in all of your assets, including the cash value of your life insurance policies. Reasonable collection potential also takes into account your anticipated future income minus basic living expenses. With that being said, it still may be worth it to see if you can get into the Fresh Start Program. There is an application fee, but if you apply for the Fresh Start Program and the IRS can't process your offer in compromise, they will return your fee to you. You do not have to pay an application fee if you apply based on doubt as to liability. As of May 2024, the application fee is $205. Please submit your application fee separately or write a separate check. Don't combine it with a tax payment. You will also submit a payment along with your application. Your initial payment can be 20% of your total offer in compromise amount, or you can make monthly installments. If you go with the 20% option, you will have to pay off the balance in 5 or fewer payments and within 5 or fewer months after your offer in compromise is accepted. If you go with the monthly installments, you will pay monthly until your balance is paid off. The payments that you make for your taxes and fees are non-refundable. Payments that you make after you apply, but before you are accepted into the Fresh Start program, are applied to the taxes you owe, and you can decide which tax year you want the payments to go toward. After your offer in compromise is accepted, you can't designate how you want the payments to be applied. If you meet the low income test, you don't have to send in an application fee or an initial payment. If your adjusted gross income on your most recent federal income tax return is less than or equal to the chart shown on your screen, then you meet the low income test. If you don't meet the low income test, you can multiply the current gross monthly income of your entire household by 12 and use the chart to see if you qualify that way. If so, you can request a waiver of the fee and the initial payment. Just to let you know, your entire household includes anyone paying household expenses, even groceries. Although it may seem strange, if your spouse does not owe the taxes, you still must include their income. While you're waiting to hear back from the IRS about whether your offer in compromise application was approved, they will stop all other collection efforts. So if you already have an installment agreement set up, you don't have to continue to make payments on it. However, you do have to make the payments that you agreed to make in your offer. Also, while you're waiting to hear back, the IRS may file a notice of federal tax lien. They normally won't file a lien until they make a final decision, though. If they do file a lien, the lien will not be released unless your offer in compromise amount is accepted and you complete the Fresh Start program. If you have any refunds from tax returns that you file after you submit your offer in compromise application, but before the IRS accepts your offer in compromise, the IRS will keep those refunds. On average, the entire Fresh Start program process may take 7 to 12 months, but if you don't hear a yes or no from the IRS within 2 years, your offer in compromise will be automatically accepted. If the IRS returns your offer in compromise application to you, but it's not rejected altogether, you can fix the issue and resubmit your application to the Fresh Start program. A few reasons that the IRS might return your application to you are you have missing information, or you didn't include your application fee or payment, or you haven't filed your required tax returns. If the IRS returns your offer in compromise because your offer was too low, you can increase your offer amount. If you don't increase your offer amount, your offer in compromise will be rejected. If the IRS rejects your offer, they will send you a letter in the mail and you will have 30 days to appeal the decision. The letter will tell you why you were not accepted into the Fresh Start program. 30 days after they reject your offer in compromise, the IRS will start collection efforts again. If the IRS decides that you can pay all of your back taxes in full, you can request an installment agreement. If you are accepted into the Fresh Start program, you will have to comply with all the tax laws. If you are accepted based on doubt as to collectability or effective tax administration, you will have to file your income tax returns on time for 5 years from the time you are accepted. If you don't follow the terms of the offer in compromise agreement, the IRS might terminate the agreement and may collect the taxes that you owed originally, plus penalties and interest. If this happens, the IRS will reduce the amount that you owe by any payments that you have already made toward your offer in compromise. Please make sure that you use accurate information when you are filling out your offer in compromise application. The IRS can find out a lot about you, so don't bother trying to hide anything. If you submit false information, you might end up with civil or criminal penalties. If you want to know more about how the IRS can get information on you, please watch the video in the upper left of your screen. All the best to you.